This is an entry from Water Dancer, a novel about my ancestors Roselyn and Seiglebert, who lived in the northern forest of Europe during 50 BCE. Soulmates, horse people, warriors, and healers both. This is an excerpt from the chapter The Island Surrounded by the River. She opened her eyes and saw a blue sky. The walls of her stone and wood room were gone. Laying on her back, she looked around. The tall green grass, the sun-dappled redwoods outlined in brilliant blue, the sound of birdsong everywhere, the soft, dry munching of grass. She slowly turned her head to her right. Her horse, Pathfinder, was there, eating, always eating. She smiled, sat up, saw the river, the sun like diamonds dazzling the surface of a slowly moving, massive body of water, the continuously changing lights, the cool breeze, the sound of the birds, the rustling of the trees. All these things were causing her to become very fond of this place, this island. The only one she missed here was Seiglebert. She would love to show him this place. As she was thinking this, a bird, a small finch, came from the tree on her left. He landed on her leg. She laughed as a reflex, her perfectly smooth legs. The finch stood still while staring at her, perfectly still. She tilted her head, looking back. This bird felt familiar. That's when she noticed movement on the far shore. A horse and a rider were coming through the thicket and stepping into the river. Wading to the horse's mane, the rider and horse began swimming straight toward her. She shooed the bird away and stood up. She knew that rider, the posture, the shoulders, the head. She walked over to Pathfinder and vaulted like a graceful dancer onto his back. She pressed her thighs together and Pathfinder moved into the river, wading through the shallows until Pathfinder was chest deep, intercepting the oncoming rider. They met on her side of the river. She just looked at him. Seiglebert never looked finer. He sat on the back of his horse and said, "So what do you think of my bird? In fact, what do you think of my trees, my river, my island?" He waved his hand toward the shore to his right. She looked into his eyes and smiled. "Your island," she laughed. "Yes," he repeated, slowly emphasizing each word. "My island." They laughed. "How is it your island? I was here first. You're entering my island." They both laughed. "Roselyn, it really is my island, but if it makes you feel better, I made it to share with you." His smile remained as she looked at her. She smiled at this thought. He made it for me. "This is the place I told you about. You remember, right?" She looked around again. This place, this conversation was familiar. She had been here before. But like a dream, the memory of it came back in bits and pieces. He went on, "My father taught me that every healer needs a secret place, kind of like a secret garden in his own mind, a place in which everything in that world is a friend. That world must be a place made of memories that causes one to feel happy, safe, and strong." He continued as he shifted his gaze to his left, looking at the river. "Do you remember the river that we visited during the clan conference 3 summers ago? We swam and played with our horses in that river while our parents were off being busy learning, meeting clan members from every part of the forest. We swam, told stories, laughed, and became better friends. That was the happiest time of my life. This is the river I shared with you then. The island, here," he returned his gaze back to his right, "is the place we dried off and laughed as we told each other what caused us to enjoy life. This is the place you told me about your friendship with Pathfinder. This is the place I told you about my love of horses and my desire to work with my father, creating the finest ranch in the forest. I recreated our island as a refuge surrounded by our river, as a kind of moat, a garden wall, so that I could always come here when I needed to figure out how to solve a particularly difficult problem, like now. This is where I went to last night while you were sleeping under the light of the full moon. It's here that I found the source of your wound, and then I removed it in a fire ceremony. All this while you slept. That I find you here now is somewhat of a surprise. But hey, given that you helped me create this place, I shouldn't be surprised." He smiled. She stroked the neck of her horse, remembering that just a minute before she imagined Seiglebert, and now here he is. And now he is talking about a wound caused to her, and one that he had removed, a thought that caused her some concern. And then suddenly, there was a stabbing pain in her right leg as she looked down, and the image of the river, her horse, Seiglebert, dissolved. A moment later she opened her eyes with a shudder of pain running spasms through her body while laying in her room. After the spasms she relaxed with slow, steady breaths until her mind felt calm and the pain subsided. The breeze pushed the window curtains open and a small finch flew in, lighting on the table near her leg. The bird caused her to smile, just a little. The bird was a happy thought. The thought brought her to memories of Pathfinder.